Thank you, Janet. I don't know who had the order of speakers, but man, there's some powerful people ahead of me here. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm going to come at this a little different lens, and it's probably appropriate that I'm sitting on the left side of the podium, because I want to ask you, when you left home today to go to work or school, did you think about where you live? Did you give it some thought when you shut that door? Did you think about the schools your children attend, your access to quality medical treatment, your reliance on reliable public transportation, or simply just your safety as you walk through your neighborhood? For many of us privileged folk, we never need to think of the answers to these questions. It never crosses our mind. Where a person lives should not determine how he or she lives. The reality, though, is that place matters. And this is the different twist to the discussion here. The history of housing in Detroit is grounded in institutional and structural racism. Beginning in 1934, the Federal Housing Administration began a systematic practice of redlining, that is, the process of not guaranteeing loans in areas where people of, and this is a direct quote from the FHA manual, where people of, quote, Ethiopian descent, end quote, resided. That phrase, as I said, is taken right from the manual. Redlining, along with restrictive covenants and steering by realtors, prevented African Americans from living in white areas, in areas of prosperity and growth. For those of you local here, you can go just off Chippewa, 8 Mile in Wyoming, and there's a wall. There's a wall that still exists that at the time divided white families from African American families in Detroit. So while we in the North watched fire hoses and dogs being used on our black brothers and sisters in the South, we were using our laws, policies, and courts to prevent people of color from gaining access and opportunity to a home and a better life. Let's think about what the piece of that American dream, owning a home, means. Over 75% of the population has its wealth in its home. There was a time, we all know, when you could borrow against that to finance your child's education or make home improvements. But also you wanted to bequeath it to your children so they had something or something of value. That was not possible for African Americans here. So let's circle back to my opening questions. Where you live determines the quality of education for your children. It determines your child's safety where he or she attends school. Reflecting back on the court decision, one can only wonder how the quality of education has been affected in Detroit. What would it look like today? The Roundtable had a reenactment of this momentous case in the fall of last year at Thomas Cooley Law School. We had Judge Jones there. So at lunch, we had a group of tables just like this. So I go around and mingling, and there was a group from Detroit Central High School there. One young man asked me, Mr. Costello, are you telling me that if the vote had gone the other way, I might have had a better opportunity for an education? Interestingly, we're having this debate again today. Governor Rick Snyder has proposed to allow any Michigan student to attend any public school in Michigan. Given the major moves in Lansing to erase all the so-called local control issues, this shouldn't be a problem. But it has. And quite frankly, those opposed to it are doing verbal backflips to avoid speaking about the real reasons for their opposition. Just as in the 70s, they don't want black children in their schools. Access to quality housing and education go hand in hand. This region, so divided by segregation, and now by education segregation, will not return to prosperity unless we create access and opportunity for all. Simply put, we need to move away from the thinking that if we uplift one group, I lose or something's taken away from me. Instead, we have to think that it uplifts everybody. Professor John Powell, who, don't take this the wrong way, he's at The Ohio State University, heads up the Kirwan Institute, and he often says if a region is to succeed, come back, revitalize, that the folk in there have to remember that our fates are linked and our futures are common. And to me, that's the simple answer, and if we can solve that and get together, we'll have a vibrant region. Thank you very much.